welcome to Reimagining Chapel. My name is Amanda Esco, and I am the Director of the Religious Education Program here at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Let's start by lighting our chalice. We light a chalice at the beginning of Reimagining Chapel and our main worship service every week. If you want to participate by lighting a chalice with us in video, please get in touch with me or Reverend Monica and we can help you do that. We'd love for you to participate in this program. Right now though, let's light this one. If you have a candle at home you want to light, now's a good time to go get it. Symbol of light, symbol of knowledge, symbol of warmth, symbol of freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love. I am so glad we are gathered in community today. I want to remind you that next week on September 13th, we will be doing Reimagining Chapel on Zoom together. So if you are able to join us, it will be at 10 a.m. on Zoom, and you will have been sent the emails, and it'll be on things like Facebook. So go and check that out if you want to join us. I can't wait to see you all there in community. But today, though, let's start by taking 2 deep grounding breaths. So I looked at my toes because I was grounding myself to the ground. Let's ground ourselves, friends. Stand up, plant those piggies into the ground, and let's take a few deep breaths. Let's breathe in through our nose, out through our mouth. Let's do that one more time. In through our nose, out through our mouth. I love taking deep breaths. They help me stay centered. They help me clear my thoughts. And it helps me focus on what's important to me in that moment. Right now, it's being with you. Let's begin our worship, since we've lit our chalice, by talking to one another, whoever is in your home with you right now, about your joys and concerns. I will start. This week has been pretty quiet in my house. I'm not gonna lie to you. My kids have both had some socially distant play dates, which have been fun, and I was able to spend last Saturday with good friends, also socially distant, and so that was nice. Forming our small groups of community together and staying connected is really important, and it's important to me. How are you keeping your community connections open this week? Think about that as several of you start school, whether it's online or in person. A lot of kids in our areas are starting school this week. I hope that goes well for you as you begin a new year. Well, let's take a minute and do joys and concerns in our own homes. Share with those that are with you, that love you the most. I'll be right here waiting for you. Thank you for sharing your joys and concerns with one another. It is so important in this time that we are physically distant from each other, that we are still sharing what's in our hearts, what's in our minds. This week's UU of the Week is a titan of the Transcendentalist movement out of Concord, Massachusetts. Thank you, Lissa, for sharing this person with us.
Education Assistant for the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Our UU of the Week, and perhaps every week, is Ralph Waldo Emerson. No UU of the Week collection could be complete without Emerson, and kids, I know we have talked a lot about him, but as luck would have it, there's a lot to say about Ralph Waldo Emerson and his impact on Unitarian Universalists. He was known as Waldo to his friends, but Mr. Emerson to everyone else, and he was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1803. His father was a Unitarian minister, but he died when Emerson was only 8 years old. His mother struggled to make ends meet, so Emerson learned at an early age to make do with less. But his mother always worked hard to support her 8 children, 5 of whom survived to adulthood. Emerson's aunt also lived with them to help with the children. Waldo and his Aunt Mary Moody Emerson were very close and wrote letters to each other for the rest of her life. Emerson lost a lot of people in his life. In addition to his father and 3 siblings, 2 more of his brothers died of typhoid in their 30s. And Emerson also lost his first wife to typhoid less than 2 years after they were married. He did marry again and had 4 children, but one of his sons died, this time of scarlet fever. But all of this loss instilled in him an intense respect for love and for life. Emerson was a Unitarian minister for like 1 day. That's not true. It was more like 3 years. But he did not agree with the traditions he was bound to, like serving communion or public prayer. Remember, the Unitarian Church of the 1800s was based in Christianity. They were still dissenters in the sense that they did not believe in the Trinity, hence the name Unitarian or one God. So Unitarians were still quite different from other Christian churches of the time, but they were much more traditional by our modern standards. Christian teachings are still part of our foundation and are one of our 6 sources of spiritual inspiration, but over time our church moved away from dogma or rules from the Bible toward a more individual pursuit of truth. But back in the 1800s, Emerson would reference the Bible, but not preach from it. This was a big change, and those higher up in church leadership did not like it. But the people did. Membership at the Second Unitarian Church of Boston, where Ralph Waldo Emerson was the head minister, rose during his short time there. But when Emerson began to doubt his beliefs after his first wife died, combined with his earlier distaste for the rules he was bound to, he soon left the ministry. Emerson decided that he could better explore his faith as an academic and a lecturer, and he left on a tour of Europe. It was in France, at a meticulously curated garden, that Emerson first saw the interconnectedness of life. In fact, nature defined Emerson's spiritual experience. He believed that anyone could come to understand God, and that the way to directly experience the divine was through nature. These beliefs, that any person could find something sacred inside themselves, and that after finding that spark of divinity, it was possible to have a direct, transcendent experience of the holy, became the cornerstone of the Transcendentalist movement, and later were Emerson's greatest spiritual contribution to Unitarian Universalism. The ideals that Emerson wrote and lectured about later in his life are much more evident in the principles we uphold today compared to the Unitarian Church that Emerson left in 1832. Emerson made his living as an author and a lecturer. He was very popular and traveled across the country on speaking tours. He even returned to his alma mater, Harvard Divinity, and spoke to the graduating class of 1838, where he delivered what came to be known as the Divinity School Address. Emerson shared his beliefs that while Jesus was a great man, he was not God. This statement ruffled more than a few feathers, and he was not invited back to Harvard for 30 years. Emerson started the Transcendental Club, where he met with many people, but among them, UU of the Week alums like his close friend and mentee Henry David Thoreau, Theodore Parker, and James Freeman Clarke. After about a year of meeting, Emerson decided to open the club up to women, and he invited Margaret Fuller to join. Out of these regular meetings of about 20 people, transcendentalism arose. It was among the first truly American philosophies, focusing on the inherent goodness of people and nature and the importance of self-reliance. Emerson agitated the Unitarian belief structure, creating a new philosophy which shaped the Unitarian Universalist Church we know today. He lived with integrity in the face of challenge and sadness, and he inspired and united some of the greatest minds in American and Unitarian history. He said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." Thanks for learning about Ralph Waldo Emerson, and remember to join us again next week for Reimagining Chapel.
Let's see what's inside our Wonder Box today. Woo, there's a couple of things. First is, there's this really big poster right here. We've got a Bible and this official looking piece of paper. This month in religious education, we are talking about the idea of renewal. The word renewal means to begin again. We're going to talk more about renewal next week in our Reimagining Chapel over Zoom. But I thought a good way to start this month would be to look at the idea of covenant as an idea of renewal together. Now, we use the term covenant a lot in Unitarian Universalist churches. Let's define covenants, shall we? Covenants are agreements or promises people make to one another. When I enter into a covenant with another person or a group, I'm making promises for my behavior and how the group will work together. Covenanting is as old as this book, the Bible. People have been making promises to one another and to their idea of God as long as there has been written work. In the Bible, God makes covenants or promises throughout the Old Testament with his people. Now, one important part of being a Unitarian Universalist is the idea of covenants. Our churches do not bind their members together through common beliefs necessarily, but by our agreements that we make to one another. We have covenants even in our classrooms, like this big old poster right here, where the members of this class, which was last year's high school class, made a covenant of their behavior together. This is how they agree to treat one another. Covenants are different from rules. Now, rules are something set out by one person or maybe a small group of people on how to restrict how others act. Dress codes are a great example of rules. Saying you can only wear red or purple shirts on Tuesday is a rule. Rules are not all bad though. We need rules to keep things safe in our society. Covenants, however, are different. When people enter into a covenant, they are making agreements together. It's the idea again of consensus, and you love consensus. We're talking about how we want to be in community together. Let's look again at this high school covenant. One of the things that they said is be kind and respectful when you disagree. Through discussion, they decided that as a group, they wanted to agree to be respectful in disagreements. That's different than a classroom rule that says use kind words. Why is it different? Because it acknowledges the behavior and that there will be moments of conflict, and that as a group, they want to respect each other's opinions. It's talking about how they will treat one another as they move forward through this life, not just saying they can't say something. Now, it's not just our classes that have covenants either here at First Church. The members of First Church are also together in covenant here. This is a copy of our church covenant. I'm going to read it to you. Now, don't worry, it's only 3 sentences, although they are kind of run-on sentences. But as you see, they are 3 important sentences. The church shall be a fellowship of individuals with free minds, having for its object the study and practice of liberal religion, including the principles propounded by the Unitarian Universalist Association, the development of a more meaningful life for each of its members and friends, and the building of a better community and world. Love shall be the spirit of this church, and service to one another and the larger community its greatest concern. The members and friends of the church do hereby covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in all things, and to help one another. Now, our church covenant does not say, don't run in the hallway. It says the community is our greatest concern. If the community is my greatest concern, I'm going to make choices that reflect that, which may mean not running in the hallway to keep everyone safe. It might also mean that I'm kind on the internet because I want to dwell in peace. Our community makes these active choices together. We're not just following rules. In the next few weeks, our RE community will be making new covenants together on our online communities. I want you to start thinking right now about the covenants and agreements you want to make together this year. We're beginning a brand new year, my friends, here at First Church, and we get to choose how we are together in community. Thank you for joining us today. To find out more information about the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City, please visit us at slcuu.org. But until next time, let's heart out.